Hello, virtual friends. Welcome back. I hope you guys had a wonderful Labor Day weekend. I hope that you all got your virtual etiquette contract signed and done, and you guys are ready to move on and continue doing excellent with virtual learning. So with that being said, let me read you our we will and I will objectives for today's lesson. So today we will identify our opinions on what happened at Roanoke by completing a historical investigation. And I will defend my opinion on what happened at Roanoke by using facts, details, and evidence from the investigation. So I want to keep this as simple and as close to what the face-to-face students are doing. So I am going to show you guys the PowerPoint that I am using for them while we are conducting our investigation. I'm just going to use it for just a quick little bit, and then I will put it back onto me so we can discuss somewhat of the different scenarios, and you'll see when we get there. So I am going to share my screen with you guys, and you will see the PowerPoint. All right. So today we are starting our CSI investigation for the lost colony of Roanoke. I'm so excited for you guys to be able to get into this a little bit more. So your mission is to find out what exactly happened to the colonists at Roanoke, or to at least get an opinion of what you think best happened to Roanoke. So what we already know is that in 1587, 117 colonists departed England to set up a colony at Roanoke Island. When a settler returned to the island in 1590, everything had vanished. All the people, animals, and homes were gone. The only clue was the word Croatoan carved into a tree. Now, I want you guys to take a minute and pause the video and kind of just think about what you think happened so far. With just the little knowledge that you have from last week, just kind of pause the video right now and think about it. I'm going to continue. So the information that we know is that in April of 1587, Governor White and 117 colonists sailed from Portsmouth, England to the New World. Their goal was to establish a new colony after a previous failure 2 years ago. Now, Governor White had a daughter who gave birth to the very first English-born child in North America, which is a super, super cool fact, which this is what led him to want to go onto a trip to England for more supplies, is because he had a growing family. Now, he thought this was going to be a quick trip to England. It was not. This trip to England took 3 years because he could not return for 3 years. And when he did return, he found the settlement deserted. When he came back after 3 years, he found a deserted island, and he found the word Croatoan carved on a tree. And he also found a couple other letters, which were CRO, on a few other trees. Now, before Governor White had left to go to England 3 years ago, he had a conversation with the colonists saying that if they needed to move, they needed to leave a clue at where they were going. And then he also added that if you add a cross to your clue, then it tells me that you are in danger. So he left them 2 pieces of advice to help when he comes back. So he found a name carved in a tree, which led him to believe that they had moved locations. He did not find a cross, which meant that they were not in danger. So he thought that they just moved for whatever reason, but it was not one that put them in danger. Now, White wanted to go look for his family at this Croatoan island. However, he kept running into bad weather, and he had to go back to England, and he was not able to reconnect with his family. So he had no idea what actually happened to them, except the small clue that they possibly went to New Island. Now, I really want you guys to look at this map and take a second and notice any differences or similarities. So go ahead and pause the video and look for those differences and similarities. I'm going to go ahead and continue. Now, you see where Jamestown and Roanoke were. If you guys remember correctly, Jamestown came a little bit after Roanoke, so it is important for us to kind of be able to see where everything is. Now, what I want you to notice is that both of the colonies are on the edge of their land. So they are more than likely just keeping close to the water for very specific reasons. And then there's all this land behind them that they have not gone into. They've only stayed very close to the water. I want you to keep that in mind. So let us kind of just name the possible theories that we have, and then we will go into each theory a little more in depth. Now, for the first theory, we have John White's theory that they moved to a new location. The second one is that the colonists were killed by Indians. The third is that the colonists were killed by a disease. The fourth is the colonists starved to death or were lost at sea. The fifth one is the colonists were taken hostage or killed by the Spanish. The sixth one is the village was destroyed by a huge storm. So now what we are going to do is we are going to go in depth of explaining and assessing the different theories. So the first theory that I want to kind of get into is the most possible one, which is the fact that the colonists possibly traveled to the Croatoan Island. Now, if Governor John White had had a discussion with the colonists prior to leaving, and he told them to leave him a clue, and this was the only clue found, that looks pretty likely. Now, I want you to think about maybe why were there other letters left? There was a CRO left together. So was it like they were trying to kind of abbreviate the word Croatoan and just leave it? Because, I mean, you got to think about it. They're carving into a tree. They're not writing it, you know, really quickly. They're carving into a tree, which takes more time. So maybe they abbreviated Croatoan to tell him, hey, we moved. But the only thing is why do we not know the for sure answer of that? But that's the most possible one. Now, let's talk about the second option. So the second option I want to talk about is the fact that the colonists were either taken hostage or killed by the Spanish. Now, if you remember and you activate your schema for me, you'll remember that the Spanish explorers were doing their thing. They were just killing it with exploring the New World. They were in all kinds of places, and they were basically in the lead between Spain, England, and France. England was starting to fall behind now. So remember how France was kind of behind? Well, now England's a little bit behind. So this was a possibility because of the fact that the colony of St. Augustine, which was founded by the Spanish explorers, it was only 540 miles from Roanoke Island. And now, since the Spanish explorers and the Spanish, you know, army, well, kind of small army, but more like little colonies that are very, very defensive, they had already killed off the French. You know, they had moved them out, got rid of them. I mean, they were conquering everything. So the fact that they were so close to the Roanoke Island and there was no trace left or anything like that, that became a possibility. So now a third theory that we have is that the colonists starved to death or were lost at sea. Now, this one was a possibility because what if they did go to Croatoan Island? They had to sail somehow to get there. And if that was the case, because like in the map, it shows you that they are very close to water. So they more than likely had to sail to get to their destination, and they could have been lost at sea. It could have happened. The starvation. Now, the starvation, I want you to think about this. If someone starved from something, would they be able to get up and walk away, or would their remains be where they starved to death? Think about that. So if the colonists starved to death and there was no trace of them, no remains whatsoever, you can figure that out because you are the historical investigator. I'm just laying it out for you. Think about that. So I have gone over 3 out of the 6 possible theories so far. So what I want you to do is, in just a moment, I want you to pause the video, take about 2 to 5 minutes, and kind of think about the theories so far. You know, we still have 3 more to go, but I want you to take a minute and I want you to think about it. I want you to think and just talk it out to yourself, write it out, do what you need to do so we can figure out where you lie for now. So go ahead and pause the video. I'm going to go ahead and continue. So the fourth possible theory is that the colonists were killed by Native Americans. Now, Roanoke Island, if you guys remember from the little tidbit I gave you last week, the Roanoke Island was named after the Roanoke Indians that were inhabited there. Now, if you guys kind of remember from Jamestown and when we were talking about the first Thanksgiving, both of those situations resulted in them fighting with the Native Americans. So who's to say that it didn't happen here? A little food for thought. Okay, so the facts that, okay, so number five possible theory is that the colonists were killed by a disease. Now, if you remember from when we were talking about Jamestown, Jamestown had a lot of death from starvation and the disease of like malaria. Yeah, so they had all this stuff going on. So what's to say it didn't happen here? So this is also a what's to say it didn't happen. What about this? It could have been this. It's just the fact that a disease killing off every single person, but there are no remains whatsoever. Think about that. Okay. So, now my last one, our sixth possible theory is that the villagers were the whole village really was destroyed. Oh my goodness. Was destroyed by a huge storm. Now, if you recall the map, you will see that they are very close to the water, or they were on the island. Now, if a storm took that out, that'd be pretty, they'd be pretty in the crosshair. So just like when we have a hurricane warning or a tropical depression or tropical storm, the last place you want to be, if we here in Houston in our little LaPorte area, the last place you want to be is you don't want to get caught in Galveston because it's by the water. So because it's by the water, that's where everything hits faster, harder, sooner, all of that. Okay, so that's why they could possibly have been destroyed by a huge storm. Okay, so now that we went through the last 3 theories, I want you to think about the last 3 theories. Excuse me. I want you to think about the last 3 theories. Oh my goodness. Take a minute and think about that. So pause the video and think about the last 3, not all of them, just the last 3. Okay, I'm going to continue. So now I want you to think about all 6 of those theories. So what I want you to do is, after kind of thinking about all 6 of those theories, is now it is your turn to complete the mission. You are going to write to me about what you feel happened at Roanoke. Now, this is going to be something where you cannot just type me one little sentence and you're done. You have to type me enough to where I feel that you used enough evidence and enough examples to what your opinion is. So now let me give you an example. So if you believe that the colonists and their village were taken out by a huge storm, you need to give me evidence and details from what we've talked about into your writing assignment. You have to tell me what you think happened and the facts to back it up. Okay, you cannot leave it out or else you're not going to get the grade that you deserve. Okay, so take the time to make some notes for yourself, and then you will go in and complete that document for me. Okay. So I hope that this was a little bit better for you guys rather than just listening to me read. I hope that you guys have an amazing evening, and I will see you next time. Bye, guys.